So here we are, Potter fans, the beginning of the end. I say that because Harry Potter Year 7 follows that recent trend of taking a perfectly capable book and stretching it out into 2 films. Sometimes it calls for it, most of the time, not so much. I knew while reading Deathly Hallows that there were many scenes that would translate well into film. I think by this point, Rowling was trying to appeal to the moviegoer in all of us, and she knew going in that this would be the film her loyal fan base was waiting for. But in all honesty, did it need to be split into 2 films? Why not just make a big 3-hour movie? Director David Yates, who redeemed himself with Half-Blood Prince after giving us the lukewarm Order of the Phoenix, designed it so that the first film was the adventure movie, in the vein of Lord of the Rings, where the central characters all wander the countryside looking for something, and then the second film would deliver all the action. Let's see how Deathly Hallows Part 1 panned out. It starts with a really depressing montage with Harry, Ron, and Hermione accepting the fact that they're about to embark on an adventure unlike any of their previous years at Hogwarts. And by an adventure unlike any other, I mean they won't be returning to the school right away. And by depressing, I mean Harry finally says his farewells to the Dursleys, while Hermione puts a memory loss charm on her parents to protect them from the bad guys. At the Malfoy home, Voldemort and his Death Eaters contemplate how to kill Harry. Voldemort then introduces us to a former Hogwarts teacher who he feeds to his pet snake.
Nagini, dinner.
Let these 2 scenes set the tone for the rest of the series. This is the darkest it's going to get. Harry gets a visit from the Order, where Mad-Eye passes around a vial of Polyjuice potion so that everyone can disguise themselves as Harry.
Fair warning. Tastes like goblin piss.
Have lots of experiences with that, do you, Mad-Eye?
Bill, look away. I'm hideous.
We meet one new character here, the sniveling Mundungus Fletcher, who you just want to scrape off the bottom of your shoe for some reason.
Nip it, Mundungus!
Harry rides with Hagrid and they fly through the busy streets of London as they're chased by Death Eaters. This is pretty stupid because anyone who knows Harry knows how close he is with Hagrid. Wouldn't he be the most obvious target? The action here is pretty intense, but aside from Harry's owl Hedwig getting struck by a spell, we don't see a lot happen. Back at the Burrow, it's revealed that Mad-Eye died, off-screen of course, making it one of the most piss-poor deaths I can think of, considering how much I love this character. And George gets his ear torn off.
I'm holy, Fred. You get it?
The whole wide world of ear-related humour, and you go for I'm holy. It's pathetic.
As the Weasleys prepare a wedding for Bill Weasley, who I don't think we've met on screen until now, and Fleur Delacour, Harry gets a visit from the new Minister of Magic, who reads them Dumbledore's will before passing out his parting gifts. One of the key items is a children's book called The Tales of Beedle the Bard, which we see again later on. The wedding is crashed by Death Eaters as Harry, Ron, and Hermione apparate downtown London. I swear, the filmmakers love to go to London. They should just make a whole movie that takes place here just to get it out of their systems. They sneak into a coffee shop where they're again chased by Death Eaters. Make a note, because they'll be doing this a lot throughout this film. Next, they go to Sirius Black's old home to find clues as to where to find the next Horcrux, one of several objects they need to find before they can actually kill Voldemort. And the less I say about that, the better. It turns out that the locket Dumbledore risked his life for in the last movie was a forgery, and the real one was sold to Dolores Umbridge by Mundungus Fletcher. Never trust a short, bald guy. Planning to enter the Ministry, Harry mugs 3 random bystanders so they can conjure up a Polyjuice potion and disguise themselves. In a tense series of events, Harry faces off with Umbridge, steals the locket, and makes a mad dash for the exit, where Ron gets injured. These movies get more sinister as time goes by, don't they? The second act has the 3 heroes wandering the countryside, desperately trying to figure out A, where to find the rest of the Horcruxes, and B, how to destroy them. They listen to the radio to make sure their loved ones are okay, giving the film an added sense of suspense. As Harry continues to wear the necklace, it begins to take its toll on him. Very much borrowing from The Lord of the Rings. Come on, it's directly copying from it. All we need is for Harry to say, "Precious." Tension mounts as Ron gets frustrated with their lack of progress and jealous that Harry and Hermione are spending so much time together, even though Ron's been with them the whole time. Ron abandons the mission with Hermione desperately chasing after him. This is one of those scenes that actually came off better in the book. Harry and Hermione continue their journey, and then there's this standout scene where Harry tries to raise Hermione's spirits by dancing with her. Yes, I'm one of those who really enjoyed this scene. It's whimsical and it doesn't add anything to the story, but the movie feels so intense at this point that it almost feels like a breath of fresh air. Harry next decides to visit Godric Hollow for clues, thinking he might find another Horcrux there. There's a touching scene where he visits his parents' graves, and then he and Hermione follow an old woman, Bathilda Bagshot, into a back alley, because it seemed like a great idea. Bagshot actually happens to be Voldemort's snake in disguise. A little weird, but effective in scaring the shit out of us. They once again escape into the wild, where Harry chases down a silver stag and ends up finding the sword of Gryffindor encased at the bottom of a frozen lake. So, what does Harry, the boy who lived, the character who's tried so hard to survive for 6 films, do? He strips and dives to go after it. Ron miraculously returns, where Harry gives him the chance to destroy the Horcrux. Ron starts to when he gets visions of Harry and Hermione taunting him. Not only do they taunt him, but they're also naked and embracing each other sexually. That just comes out of nowhere. The next stop on their journey through endless forests is Xenophilius Lovegood, Luna Lovegood's dad. They notice that he wears a strange pendant resembling a marking in Hermione's copy of Beetle the Bard. Lovegood explains that the pendant symbolizes the 3 Deathly Hallows, magical artifacts that have been sought after for centuries. Hermione then reads us the story of the 3 brothers. This is where Yates uses artistic license and gives us something that's actually surprising and kind of cool. A completely animated sequence that looks like they got Tim Burton on board.
The Elder Wand. The most powerful wand ever made. The Resurrection Stone. The Cloak of Invisibility. Together they make the Deathly Hallows.
So now the question is, does Harry continue looking for the Horcruxes, or does he begin looking for the Deathly Hallows? They get ambushed by Death Eaters again, thanks to Lovegood betraying them, and again they head into the woods, because, it's done them so much good so far. They get caught, but before the villains get a chance to recognize them, Hermione curses Harry, reconfiguring his face. They're brought to Malfoy Manor, where Bellatrix Lestrange recognizes the sword of Gryffindor and begins torturing Hermione. I'm not joking, she tortures the poor girl. Harry and Ron are taken to the dungeon, where they're rescued by none other than Dobby. There's also an interesting scene where Draco Malfoy has every opportunity to turn Harry in, but lets him go instead. Malfoy is that bully that used to threaten to beat you up on the playground after school and then would just never show up, just to make you look like an ass. He never actually achieves what he sets out to do, does he? A wand fight breaks out, the good guys escape, although it doesn't look like Dobby's having a particularly good day. Of course, with the title ending with the words Part 1, we know it's going to end on a cliffhanger, with Voldemort robbing Dumbledore's grave, stealing the Elder Wand. After 6 films taking place primarily in a school, this one's got a different feel. There's a genuine element of suspense as the characters go into hiding, although I've got to say, it's really dark and it owes a lot to Lord of the Rings. It also feels a little stretched out. Let's remember, this movie is over 2 hours, but it's only the first half of the book. That's not to say I wasn't entertained by it, and when it ended, I really hated that I had to wait an entire year to see the conclusion. As a movie, it's very well done, having an epic feel and an often frantic pace. But there were scenes in the book that I was expecting to be done justice on film that just didn't come across, like the scene where Ron leaves. I know that just means my imagination is a little different from Yates's, but in all honesty, what's with all these cheap off-screen deaths? Mad Eye deserved a better death than what he got. Deathly Hallows is a mixed bag, not because it's a bad movie, but because I had a lot of expectation riding on this film, and, well, it met most of them, but let down in certain areas. Like Order of the Phoenix, this one feels like a filler, serving merely as a bridge between Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows Part 2. At the same time, I don't know if they could have successfully squeezed it into one film and done it justice. It feels like, despite a ton of scenes with our heroes running in and out of forests, a lot was happening. It's a worthwhile entry, but it only makes us want to pop in the next film.